I'm here in Hickson, Georgia, just outside of Vidalia, Georgia, and I'm waiting on my truck. It's getting work done over there. And you can see how foggy it is. I think it's maybe the 4th or 5th day that we've had this much fog. But I'm showing you just a small part of the destruction that came through with the tornado, or well, I'm sure there's multiple tornadoes, but the hurricane, with HELLene. And this park, anybody who knows this park will know, it used to be so wooded. All those areas where you see there, there was a tree here, but all of this was trees, obviously, because something fell on that, right? And now it's barren, and their fence line over here is more evidence of that. That's out. And you can see the trees in the background to get an idea of just how bad it was. So the fog's interesting because there's some videos out about what the fog might be. Maybe, but if it is, I'm out here in it, and Psalms 91 says, not a pestilence that flies by night, or the arrow that flies in the noonday, I believe. I can't let some fog slow me down, right? And it does. The word does say that you have to be discerning and know when to take shelter, and the wise and prudent hide themselves in times of calamity. All those things are valid, certainly. But my truck is getting the headlights fixed because the lights are out. And I just bought, for this truck, new headlights. And headlights aren't cheap, right? So I got new headlights, new tail lights, like the whole housing unit, an aftermarket front and rear housing for those, and installed them, and things were, I would say, 70% working how they were supposed to, but things were a little bit off from the start, which maybe installer error, but nonetheless, I hadn't really fooled with it since, but then the lights started going out. And I guess the message really is, well, can't see very good unless your path is illuminated. And the Torah is called a light to our feet to illuminate the path. And Paul says in Romans, where a lot of people like to say that Paul is doing away with the Torah, because you can't say that anything Messiah ever said does away with the Torah. People like to use the story of the woman being caught in adultery, where Messiah's writing in the sand. Some people say that story was actually added in later, a text that was later added. And whether it was or wasn't, he wasn't breaking Torah. He was keeping Torah. They were breaking Torah, because Torah says that if a man or man and woman are found caught in adultery, that both of them must be stoned, and that the 2 or 3 witnesses, because it takes 2 or 3 to establish a matter, but that the 2 or 3 witnesses are the first to cast the stone. So when they handed a stone to Messiah and said, hey, she's caught in adultery, go ahead and hit her with that rock, they were doing it out of order, without proper trial, so to speak, because the man wasn't there to stand, and where were the 2 or 3 witnesses that were eyewitnesses that caught her in the act? So he wrote in the sand, I believe he wrote their names. From dust you were made, to dust you will return. So he's writing in the dust their names. And the word also says to the effect that when our names will be blotted out from the book of life and be like we never existed, sadly, in that judgment that the Catholic Church would call hell. So I think he wrote their names in the sand, all their names, and that made them drop the stone, because he said, if you're without sin, which 1 John 3:4 tells us is transgression of the Torah, if you're without sin, then you go ahead and cast that stone, because he knew all of them were sinning. They didn't even have the man there. So by definition, they were transgressing the commandment for a lawful trial to be held for this woman who was guilty, according to the story. And Messiah releases her, and he says, go and transgress the Torah no more. Go and sin no more means go and transgress the Torah no more. So Messiah never did away with the Torah, and Paul tells us in Romans 2:13, but it's not the hearers of the Torah that are just before Elohim, but the doers of the Torah will be justified before El Shaddai, the Most High. So don't be caught on the road without that light to be able to see, especially when there's a fog. It makes things harder to see, and who knows that the fog is artificial, whatever, damaging, Bill Gates, whatever. No pestilence. Walk in the truth, and he will guard you. Hallelujah.